Welcome to the service today. Today's subject is how to experience God's presence in inner stillness. We're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to set the stage, and then we're going to watch a guided meditation by Kriyananda, which has visuals as well as audio. And the reason I want to, today we're supposed to how to experience, not just listen talking about. And so I want to talk about how to listen, how to connect to the inner stillness and why that's important, and then we'll actually do the exercise. It's an interesting story about Sister Gyanamata. Whenever she was in Master's presence, she would never sit. She would always stand. I suppose there might have been some times when they had meditations and she sat down. But as a regular practice, she would stand. And she wouldn't talk unless asked a question. But she was doing something very active while she was standing. She was listening. And the thing is, she wasn't just listening with her ears. She was listening with her spirit, with her inner connection to spirit. And in order to do this, we have to learn how to. We have to learn how to listen inside of ourselves. And you could say, you could even define meditation as the practice of inner listening. Many times we think of meditation as I've got to do meditation. I've got to accomplish something in my meditation. And that's not incorrect. But what we're trying to accomplish is listening, which means that we're actively present, but we're not imposing our vision of what should be happening on it. We're not thinking about it. We're not judging it. We're not having thoughts of other activities wander in our minds. We're fully present. And our inner being is inwardly reaching out in a calm state of communion with the truth, with the essential God presence of that moment. And if we can learn to practice this, then we can learn to experience God's stillness, God's presence in every life experience. The reason that we don't experience, because it's there right now, the reason that we don't experience it is because our minds are active, outwardly active. They're active with the stimulations that come through the senses, and they're active with thoughts of past, active with thoughts of future. Sometimes active with trying to analyze the present moment, but much of the time in motion, agitated, and emotionally reacting to the current situation. We're emotionally reacting to whatever's happening. I like it, I don't like it. So I have an opinion about it. And oftentimes when we have experiences in life, let's say you're listening to somebody speak, in your mind, you're evaluating what they're saying, and you're making decisions, judgments, analysis. It's like the radio announcer announcing the cricket match, and so-and-so is at the bat, and da-da-da-da-da. And in our minds, when we receive things, we're going, oh, he said this, and do I agree with that, and this relates to this past experience, and I wonder if I can do that in the future, and oh yeah, my cousin did that once, and all of these things that take us away from being still, being calm, being quiet, and being able to fully enter into. Sister Gyanamata was trying to fully enter into without any blockage, without any definition of self. You know, one of the definitions of living in ego consciousness is that we relate everything back to ourselves, the little self. So if somebody tells a story about the fish that they caught, then you think, oh, I caught a fish. Oh yeah, here, my story is, you know, I got a bigger one. Or mine wasn't that big. Or, oh, yes, I traveled to this country. Well, oh yeah, I traveled to that country. Or I traveled to some other country. And everything comes back to the ego. But the power of that is that it keeps us disconnected from the truth of the moment, from the God presence underneath. It's not that those thoughts are bad thoughts. It's that they're distracting thoughts. They're disconnecting thoughts. They're thoughts that keep us from experiencing the peace, the bliss of spirit that's always present underneath every life experience. So we have to practice being in that peace. And of course, when we meditate, we're trying to turn off the senses and focus the mind inwardly on that peace. There's actually a name for that, for being in that state of inward connectedness completely. This is the Kutusta Chaitanya, the Krishna consciousness, the Christ consciousness. This is the presence of God that is pure and untouched by the creation, and yet present. It's in the creation, it's present underneath the creation. This is Tat. Om Tat Sat. Om is the creation. Sat is God beyond the creation, unmanifest. Tat is that spirit stillness underneath the creation. That perfect, we say the creation is perfect. Underneath it's perfect. On the outside it's crazy. But underneath it's always bliss. So we have to practice this. When we practice Kriya, when we practice all of the meditation techniques, and even kirtan, you know, when we practice chanting, we're not trying to go to emotional excitement. We're trying to go to stillness with open-heartedness. And this is an important aspect of stillness, is that the heart has to be expanded. You can't be in the eye, little eye. You have to be out. So as we watch this video, what I want you to do is inwardly reach out and be in it. Don't, Sister Gyanamata, she was probably not standing right in front of Yoganandaji. She was probably out there somewhere in the, you know, in the back probably. But in her consciousness, she was inwardly reaching out. Because if you think, how can I be in the God presence? How can I, if I was in Yogananda's physical presence, would I be trying to be his skin? Would I try to commune with his skin or with his hair? Would I be trying to commune with his words or with his spirit? His spirit is not visible outwardly. It's visible inwardly. And it's visible to your inner awareness, not just to these eyes. And you can get cues by looking at life outwardly, but if you really want to know life, you have to touch it inside. Where do you touch it? Inside the center of your own being, your heart. And in that, you commune. Well, your heart, but also the spiritual eye. So the heart and the spiritual eye, we usually think of them as separate, but try to think of them as more as one. The heart, open, expansion, the spiritual eye. If we practice this in meditation, we then want to bring it out into our daily life. So when you're listening to other people speak, you know, sometimes we say you need to read between the lines, not just but what people say, but with the underlying meaning. Well, that's the same principle. We want to connect to the underlying spirit, the spirit, not only their spirit, but God's presence underneath. What is God expressing in this moment? What is the truth of this moment? Inwardly reaching out. Kriyananda often said it was a good idea to practice, say you're taking a walk. When you're in the park, or even preferably out in nature somewhere. And then inwardly reach out. This is what we're going to do when we watch this video. Inwardly reach out and be in that space. Let your spirit, let your center, and the stillness underneath the outwardness. This is something that we want to practice in daily life. When you're driving in the car, even when you're in a business situation, especially when others are yelling and excited, you're with a person who makes you uncomfortable, open yourself up inwardly to this truth of the moment underneath. Remember, there was a story in the autobiography of a yogi. Was it Sri Teshwar and Master went to see this little slideshow? But it was, they weren't liking it. It was, I guess it was boring or something. I forget the details. So, but they underneath, they were inwardly connected. What happened? The power went out. And they snuck out because the power went out. They connected to God in that moment. When you, another story, Master, when he was driving to Encinitas from Mount Washington, and he went for the shortbread, and they were out, and he wasn't attached to it, but he was surprised. So in that moment, he went, Lord, and instantly a light came down and shined on that building, and the lady came running out with shortbread that she had been saving for someone else. Just, no, I want you to have this. I'll make some more for the person that I was going to give this to. In that moment. See, now, in that story, Yoganandaji wasn't saying, oh, I knew that we were going to drive down to Encinitas today and that this incident was going to happen. No. He was spontaneously flowing along with the experience. But the way that he did that was to be God connected underneath it. Even when you have a limited sense of God presence, say in your normal daily consciousness, you have to always be practicing connecting to more, being connected to more. Practice that God is present. And God is present in stillness. So another way that we practice this is by simplifying our lives in such a way that we aren't as bombarded with stimulations. So there's some things that you can do, some things that you can't do. But if you're constantly listening to agitating music, if you're constantly listening to or watching television, very agitating, they stir the mind up. But even if you're listening to those things, you can take them to the silence. This is one of the principles of Tantra Yoga. You take the stimulation of the world and you take that energy to your center, and then you instead of directing it to your emotional response, you direct it inwardly and up to the spiritual eye, and you offer it. So outward experiences can actually feed your inner connection. We call this transmuting the energy. You transmute that outward physical energy into a flow of energy that takes you deeper into stillness. So when you chant, awaken the energy and then take it to stillness. When you're living in your life, be aware of what's going on, be responsible for the things that are yours to do, but as part of that process, take it inward and upward. This is not just offering your circumstances to God mentally. Yes, that's part of it sometimes. But it's actually working with the energy. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to say, okay, Lord, I am offering this to you, guide me. It's a process of, remember last week I was saying in the astral realm, you don't have to talk to people. You think the thought, they receive it. God's the same. You know, I mean, sometimes it's appropriate to speak out loud to God, but God knows our thoughts. And when you automatically, it's like when you embrace your relative, you don't have to say anything. You can. Sometimes it's nice too. But you just embrace them. That's enough. That says it. When we embrace God through this inward reaching out, we're being with God to the extent that we're able to perceive it. Then this relationship will get deeper and deeper and deeper. When we're talking about this superconscious state, we're talking about being in the Katusta Chaitanya, the Christ consciousness. We have to enter into that state, practice being in that state, to the best that we can, affirm being in that state. It's very calm, the stillness. Underneath every life experience, there is stillness. And in that still presence, we can perceive and practice living in that presence. And the deeper you go in meditation, if you practice silence, not speaking for an extended period of time, and seclusion, these are experiences that we use to deepen this, to really go deeper than we've gone before. And then to take that experience and try to maintain it as much as possible in your daily life. And then over time, it becomes a natural habit, the way that you relate to life, rather than something that you're straining to accomplish. So as we watch this video, listen to the music, enter into it, and Swamiji's voice and what he's saying. But as you perceive it, enter into the stillness underneath it. And you'll find as it goes on, it's 20, almost 25 minutes. Okay? You'll have to, if you find your mind wandering, then you've got to bring yourself back to it, just as you would in meditation. And you use the energy of his voice and the music to strengthen your flow towards stillness. So you don't have to self-generate it as you would in meditation. So you're going to just ride this energy flow and sit as still as you can, and as if you're meditating. And the more intensity of awareness, not tension, but intensity of presence, be there, be fully present in it, then the freer you'll become from a sense of physical awareness, and the more you'll feel enter into that still consciousness. Okay, so we will watch it now.
Where do clouds sail when they leave the shining sunset behind? They sail for the land of mystery. Will they find what they seek? That depends on you. For the breeze that blows them is the breath of your own peace. Let the clouds sail. Sail away, far, far away, over distant horizons, over gently rolling hills, over deserts where tiny, slow-moving caravans wind their way patiently toward waiting oases. Sail with the clouds above the vast oceans, their heaving swells rising, sinking constantly as if slowly breathing. Sail above wide prairies, soaring snow-clad mountains, dense forests, and sleepy towns with lamp-lit winding streets, guarded by tall, watchful clock towers. Sail over farmlands, little patchwork quilts of green, gold, and walnut brown. Fly far, ever farther, until at last you come to a land of golden light. A long way below you, white beaches washed by soothing waves, call to you, come to us, sleep on our soft sands. A deep blue sea murmurs through the rolling surf, rest and listen while I sing to you. And palm trees rustling in the breeze, draw your gaze inland, where emerald green hills call to you invitingly, play here in our golden sunshine. Why not go there? Leave the great sailing clouds for this land of mystery. Skydive freely down gentle breezes, gliding, swooping, soaring, then at last slowly sinking to land gently in a forest glade. Walk on the green, mossy floor, its touch cool on your bare feet. Long shafts of sunlight slant downward like stairways from the sky. The forest you've entered is a friendly one. Fawns gambol near you or graze quietly. Gaily colored birds flit from tree to tree through the slanting sun rays. and tame, kindly animals pause from time to time to gaze at you and nod in friendly fashion. As you wander down leaf-bordered aisles, you say to yourself, "How beautiful it all is. But what makes this a land of mystery? Is beauty mysterious? Is friendliness?" And just then, walking happily, you smile. Ah, look! Aren't the shafts of sunlight through the trees a little brighter? Call to a deer. It glances up, then comes over and nuzzles you. Stretch out your hand to a bird, and, in a lively swirl of red and blue, it swoops down to land on your forefinger. A dainty pink and white blossom high above your head makes you think, "I wish I could hold you. If only I could enjoy your fragrance." And just then, the long, thin branch reaches down and lets you smell the blossom. Now do you understand? This land is mysterious because it reflects your thoughts. Why, you ask? Because you and it are in harmony. Then again, why? Because your heart is at peace. How wonderfully uplifting this harmony. Embrace it. As you do so, a cresting wave of joy breaks over you, and a chord of angelic music pours through the trees in a stream of radiant light. Rise in the air effortlessly with that glorious sound. On streams of music soar down quiet glades. Above grassy knolls and over flower-scattered thickets. Up shafts of sunlight, then down again. Soaring and swooping like a bird. After some time, come again to earth, in an open field at the edge of the forest. On a bush of yellow blossoms sits a blue butterfly brilliant in the sunlight. Spying you, it flutters over and hovers on a level with your eyes. "Follow me," whispers the butterfly.
"Follow me, follow me, follow me."
Then flits lightly away, leading you. Soon you emerge onto an emerald meadow. Wild flowers of countless laughing colors wink at you merrily through the long grass that sways gently in the breeze. laugh and skip in the meadow playing with the butterfly. Then sit quietly and breathe the sweet scent of the wildflowers. Listen. Can you hear rippling music, harp-like on the breeze? The strings of the harp are the long meadow grass. Again now the butterfly whispers, "Follow me."
Follow me, follow me, follow me.
It leads you over low hills, through grassy, fragrant meadows, and beside a gay crystal stream, its waters chuckling at the memory of some mountain-told, happy story. At last you see before you the rustling palm trees, and beyond them, a wide, sparkling beach, spreading a welcome to you of warm sand. Walk there, listen to the rolling surf. The waves bring you a message from the sea. You are more, they say, so much more than you know.
More. So much more.
As each wave crests, then curls inward upon itself to break into a riot of white foam, it calls to you, break your littleness. You are so much more than you realize.
More. So much more.
As the foam flows up onto the beach, its soft fingers touch you. Won't you listen, the foam whispers? Then, withdrawing, it murmurs, rest now, relax. Perhaps then you'll understand. Lie back peacefully on the soft sand, and, quietly, let your mind soar. Time passes in deep peacefulness. Now the blue sea sends another messenger. A very large, loving wave surges up onto the beach and wraps you in a shining tunnel of blue light. Lose yourself in that light. Do you hear? A deep rolling rumble speaks to you from inside the wave. We are one.
We are one. We are one.
Leave your little body, friend. We are one.
We
Melt into the curling wave, into the blue light. Into the vast sea. Coral castles underwater, orange and red, stand sentinel in a dim, luminous world. Tropical fish of many colors dart about, in, out, and over tall turrets and stern battlements. Flashes of turquoise, brilliant yellow, flaming violet, rose. Courtiers and elegant ladies-in-waiting they seem, proud of their rich costumes, bustling in service to their king and queen. Below them, long ferns like royal flags wave in the shifting currents, reminding you of willows swaying on a gentle breeze. The sun's rays in this underwater kingdom form tall columns, fading off into the distance, shining pillars in a formal garden, where mist hides the surrounding countryside, and fairyland terraces step down gracefully to a dark, unseen valley. Gaze into the vanishing unknown. We are one, rumbles the sea.
We are one. We are one. We are one.
Your thoughts, your heart's feelings expand out in all directions to embrace that oneness. Everything around you is a part of some greater you. Coral castles, terraced hills, dark valleys, and the vastness of water everywhere. All this is you. You, a tiny ripple of peace, have become now the vast sea of happiness and joy.
So this idea that we can focus inwardly with intense awareness, but in deep calmness, is something that we have to practice. It takes more energy. It takes more conscious connectedness. If your body started to get restless, if your mind started to get distracted instead of staying focused, then it's like the runner who tries to run cross-country but gets tired before ending the run. And you have to train. We have to train ourselves to be calmer, to be more inwardly connected. And the more we practice this, the better we become at it. And then we can enter more and more deeply into this state of communion with the divine bliss, with the peace and the love of spirit. So this is one of the ways that we stimulate our sense of the direction that we're trying to go in. And the masters do teach that you can meditate with your eyes open. But for most of us, it's necessary to close the eyes and focus completely within. And eventually, your inner focus becomes sufficiently strong that eyes open, eyes closed, it doesn't matter. Generally, we see people meditating with their eyes closed. But this particular exercise is a way to, if you're feeling restless, if you feel like, oh, I'm trying to meditate, but I can't, then we use these guided meditations, just enough stimulation with a calming influence. And that can help us to go in that direction.